Did you know that you can always tell when a narcissist is lying? Just look for their lips moving. We're going to get into some heavy stuff, but I thought maybe I'd start with some levity. Because once you learn about these lies and why narcissists tell them, that can tell you everything you need to know about this relationship, and you may even be able to find some closure. So the first lie a narcissist will tell is you're safe with me, or you can be vulnerable with me. And really here, this describes the entirety of the love bombing phase, because this phase is all about them getting you to let your guard down. They're trying to make it seem like you have this intense connection and that you've known them forever and that they're the person in the world that you can trust the most. And they might even ask you personal or probing questions. But really, whether they ask questions or not, whatever vulnerabilities you express, they will almost certainly use those against you. And it may not be an exact, like I told you this and then you threw it in my face, although sometimes that happens. It can be more of the narcissist finding out your vulnerabilities so that they know which buttons to push. And I'm going to share a comment that illustrates this really well. But first, let me introduce myself. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Christina, and I'm a narcissistic abuse recovery coach. And I happen to specialize in covert abuse and trauma bond recovery. So if you've dealt with these things, check out the link in the description for more information on one-on-one support. And now here's the comment that shows exactly what a narcissist does with your insecurities. When you confide in them about everything bad that ever happened to you, then they throw it up in your face when they're mad for no reason. Okay, the next lie is the one that I know many of you have heard. I'll read your comments. And there are two sides to this, but it's ultimately the same thing. So they might say my ex was insane, or all of my exes were insane, or they might say my ex is my best friend. I can't live without this person. And really in either situation, they could be cheating with that ex. It's much more likely in the best friend scenario, but it is also possible if they're saying their ex is crazy. Really, when somebody says they have a crazy ex, especially multiple crazy exes, you have to wonder what drove them to that point. Some people are just extremely dramatic or jealous, and they might act in ways that we don't expect or want in our lives, right? But you can really tell a lot about a person, especially up front, in paying attention to how they talk about their past relationships. And now here's a comment that really drives this best friend point home. Mine told me every time, he is my best friend, like a brother. Now I know why. Thank God I'm out of this situation. And here's one of many I found on the crazy ex. Of course, many of her exes were crazy or stalkers. The worst was telling me an ex had cheated on her and how important faithfulness was to her. She's the only girlfriend that ever cheated on me, and she did it in a horrible, gross way for months. She started it when my dad died. I planned on marrying her. It was the cruelest thing anyone's ever done to me. So I hope that this commenter is in a better place after this relationship and has found some peace. And I hope that remains the cruelest thing that anyone has ever done to you. So the next lie is no one likes you or no one will believe you. And really, these are two different things, but it's essentially the narcissist using other people to triangulate, to make you feel a certain way about yourself or your situation. And clearly, comments like no one likes you, which sometimes can be very detailed, are an attempt to attack your self-worth. And unfortunately, this tends to be pretty effective. And here's a comment from someone who has experience with these very lies. Wow, my boyfriend says all of these. The one where they say no one loves you or nobody likes you. Nobody wants to be around you. That really hurts. Ever since he first said these hurtful things, I've known he was a piece of poo that didn't respect me, but I never left. And years later, now I'm trapped. So another lie that all narcissists tell is some version of you can count on me, you can depend on me. And even if they don't outright say it, they imply it. They want to make it seem like they are trustworthy. And this is especially true for the covert narcissist. And the reality of the situation is that sometimes you might be able to trust this person. If it's something that's convenient for them, if they're not doing anything better, they might help you out. Or especially if it makes them look good, they might help you out. But if none of those things apply, or if they have something better to do, you can bet that you're going to be on your own. And here's a comment that really encapsulates this lie. He told me he was reliable and trustworthy. 9 years later, he brutally discarded me. He had been seeing another woman for the past 3 years. So with this, I'll say be wary of anyone who feels the need to convince you that they're trustworthy. People prove that they're trustworthy through their actions, not their words. So another lie that all narcissists tell is this is all your fault. And really this speaks to the blame shifting that goes on so often in these relationships. And the problem is that if you self-reflect, when things get ugly, you may have played a role in it, right? Or if you're used to taking responsibility for everything, you're likely to take on that responsibility when somebody is blaming you. But when you see a pattern where nothing is ever their fault and it's always your fault, there's probably a whole lot of blame shifting going on here. And what that means is that this is a lie. So this comment really shows how fed up you can get with all that blame shifting once you're finally done with the narcissist. I don't even listen when she calls me anymore. It's all just bait, gaslighting, and blame shifting. She calls and I just put down the phone until she's done. Sometimes an hour-long phone call and I have no idea what she said. And I know some of you might just say this person should go no contact, but we don't know the situation and we shouldn't be quick to tell other people how to live their lives. But here's another comment that highlights the level of manipulation that some of you are really dealing with. She cheated and I apologized. How messed up is that? So apparently she made this commenter believe that it was their fault she cheated, but that's never the case. We all have to take responsibility for our own actions. So it sounds like this commenter realized that it wasn't their fault, and I hope that's the case. So another lie that all narcissists will tell is, I want the same things as you. And this, ultimately, in a nutshell, it's future faking. This is when a narcissist will promise you the world, everything that you want. You can have it if you just stay with the narcissist, if you just keep going a little bit more. But the problem is the goalpost keeps moving and they just keep dangling that carrot to keep you strung along. And I have a whole video on future faking. So if you've experienced this in your life, maybe a narcissist promising that you're going to get married or buy a house or just get whatever it is that they know you want, I highly suggest you watch that video. I'm going to pop that in the card right now. So here's a comment that really exposes a narcissist's future faking. I left him 11 years ago and he was shocked, bitter, and speechless. I heard he rebounded in 2 weeks and married her. We were in a 5-year relationship and engaged. I was future faked since he had no intentions of getting married. When he married only 2 weeks after our breakup, I was devastated. Even though I left him, I still loved him. But I realized too late that he was a narc. And this behavior is very common for a narcissist. The comment was a little bit longer, but this commenter went on to say that the person he married had a lot of money. So you can see that opportunistic nature really coming through. It sounds like this may have been a way for the narcissist to get revenge, get new supply, and also get money. So for a time, it may have been a win-win. But we know that these relationships never really work long-term. So the next lie all narcissists tell is some variation of I'm honest to a fault. I never lie. You can trust me. And again, like we talked about with a previous comment, be very careful about anybody who needs to tell you how trustworthy or honest they are. So the next lie that narcissists tell is I'll change. And they may say this or they may imply it. And this one may even come with what I like to call a faux apology. Covert narcissists are more likely to apologize, and some narcissists never apologize. But this apology is a fake apology. It's either an apology without changed behavior, which is not an apology at all, or it's an apology that seems like an apology, but it's really not. I have a whole video on this one too, and I'll link to that in the card as well. But when you see this one come through, when you see a narcissist promising to change, it's because you've taken away something that's important to them. So if they feel like they need your supply in the moment and you're not giving it to them, that's when you're going to see this come through. And this can happen even if they've discarded you and come back around. So when they're hoovering, they may come back with this faux apology or promise to change, promise that things will get better. But if you've been through enough cycles of abuse, you know that things only get better for a short time. And here's a comment that sums up the narcissist's faux apology. They may give a faux apology or do the minimum required to keep you from leaving them or having some inevitable consequence. But that will only last for about 5 minutes, and they'll be right back to the same old BS or worse. They're never really sorry though, and they don't really try to change. They sometimes just pretend change, like bait and switch. So the next lie that all narcissists tell is sad but true. And that lie is, I love you. And I know that that is a harsh truth. But if you look at someone who is behaving the way a narcissist behaves, it's very difficult to imagine that they do love you. But they will say the words, I love you, and they'll say it very early on. It's very common for a narcissist to say, I love you in the first weeks of a relationship. And this is what happens in the love bombing phase. And throughout the relationship, they use those words and their love or affection as a tool of abuse. So they will give it and they will take it away continually throughout the relationship. And this is what creates a trauma bond. But I also feel like I should mention, I think a lot of narcissists believe the words that they're saying when they're coming out of their mouth. I think they believe that they love you when they're saying it a lot of the time. It's just that I don't think they really quite understand what love is. And here's some good advice from the comment section. The first truth you need to tell yourself is that they never loved you. So once you start accepting that, you begin to heal and stop romanticizing them and seeing them for who they really are. They are just there for themselves and draining your good qualities to make up for their emptiness. The more you pour into a narc, the emptier and depressed you are going to be. So the next lie a narcissist will tell is you can't trust yourself. And they may outright say this, you can't trust yourself, or they may imply it through a whole lot of gaslighting over the course of months or years. They really get you to doubt your sense of what's true and real. A narcissist will do something objectively hurtful and then tell you that they didn't. And it can be really hard to understand how this works, but it happens very gradually. If you've been through it, I think you have a pretty good understanding of how these types of relationships attack your sense of self and your ability to trust yourself. So now I want to highlight a comment that describes how this works. Yeah, the covert variety is so much more dangerous as a relationship partner. I had to make notes as things happened to truly see the patterns and convince myself it wasn't me causing this. They are very, very good at making you doubt your own reality. And here's another comment on the subject that I thought would be really helpful to share. It's as though you were a fly on my wall. So true to the experiences I lived/am living with the person I regretfully married. It almost made me crazy. It definitely made me insecure and doubt myself. The memory of seeing him cry about something significant and the feeling I had that this was some kind of show instead of true emotion has never left my mind. I knew he was a covert narcissist before I knew this term. Thank you for doing the good work to help us deal with these shells of so-called people. So if you can relate to realizing towards the end that you're starting to doubt yourself more than ever, there's a video that's going to pop up on the screen that I think you're going to find super helpful. This video is about how gaslighting begins, because it really does happen subtly at first and it really ramps up over time. So if this has touched your life, definitely watch that video. And before you go, be sure to hit that like button and I'll see you next time.